you talked about Imam Deen Mohammed during his time of leadership, that he had an established discipline. And you talked about how leadership is something that the African American people have always had a respect for. And I know that we talk about leadership, and you have articulated it beautifully. Some of the things that leadership does in terms of opening pathways and providing emphasis and things of that nature. And we focus on the leader. But I was wondering if you could comment on the responsibilities of the followers, because when you spoke about what Imam Muhammad had said, it's clear that people didn't follow that leadership. He made it very clear what our emphasis should be in terms of establishing relationships, whether they're trade relationships or cultural, that there's a responsibility on the follower. And I think that's just as important for us to emphasize and understand. The second thing is, with regards to Africa, I'm appreciative of the clarity. And I think that's another benefit of traveling, because I think my 13, 14, and 15-year-old daughters and nieces have discovered, just by virtue of having been here for almost 3 months now, that we have something that the world needs, that these Muslim nations, whether there's, some a relationship of shared, ethnicity in terms, going far back, that they don't have anything to offer us, that we don't have in a superior measure. As the brother said, it doesn't make us. It's not a characteristic of our egos, but it is a characteristic of Allah's blessing upon us. And so they have seen that with eyes wide open, and they're not looking to anyone else for leadership, based upon having that experience. And the last thing is, which you may address at another time, I saw recently that there was like a class that someone was offering on the methodology of Imam Deen Mohammed. And you mentioned earlier in your talk about madhab and that, and I'm wondering, is, what are people offering out there by way of the methodology of Imam Deen Mohammed? And, why aren't they in the class of the top student and the successor to Imam Deen Mohammed? But I just know that's out there, and I know people are offering things. So I don't know if you have any commentary on that. Again, thank you. If you don't have time to offer it, I understand your time is valuable, but I appreciate you listening. Assalamu alaikum.
No, I appreciate your observations. And that's what the class, that's why we have this time for us to discuss these things. Address the last part of your comments first. I don't know what they're talking about, the methodology of Imam W. Deen Mohammed. I don't know. I'm always interested in what these brothers and sisters, what they're talking about. It doesn't reach me, most of it. And I think that's intentional. I think that they don't want it to reach me. Because if it reaches me and it's not correct, or if it's in some ways distorting something, they know I'm going to take it up. And we're going to be firm with it. We're going to be firm with it if it's not correct. So it doesn't reach, I don't see it. And they don't invite me to address them. That's also a sign. And we know what there's some, in any setting of justice, eyewitness evidence ranks superior. So you're going to reject the eyewitness? And not just any eyewitness, not just the average eyewitness, but some eyewitness with the experience that I have. You don't have to, a person doesn't have to acknowledge me as leader, but you're going to say, well, we're not ready to engage with him. That's what one of them said. Well, what's your discussion? What's your discussion? What are you talking about? You're talking about Imam W Muhammad's leadership and et cetera. You're not ready to engage with his representative? Well, why? What's the reason for that? And they'll give you some inferior logic, you know. So yeah, I appreciate the discussion and I respect it. I respect the discussion of Imam W Muhammad's leadership and what they refer to as his methodology. I respect it. I want to respect it. But I get the feeling that it has in it more elements of selfishness and self-aggrandizement and grandstanding than it does real valuable information. When the adhan is called, according to the instructions of Muhammad the Prophet, we're to repeat what the mu'adhan says. And when the mu'adhan says, hayya ala salah, hayya ala al-falah, we're to say, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. No reach and authority and power except God. So when the mu'adhan, he says Allahu Akbar, we say Allahu Akbar. When he says Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, we say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. When he says Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah, we say Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. When he says Hayya ala salah, Hayya ala al-falah, we say there's no power, no authority except with God, and so forth. When the Imam leader is leading and he's reciting Al-Fatiha, we're to listen to his recitation, we're to hear his recitation, and we're to also say the recitation as well, silently or in our mind. Why? Why are we doing that? Because we have that obligation to act upon what is being recited. And so we have to know, in order to act upon it, whether what is being recited is correct. And so in the instance that the leader is off track for some reason, we're able to address that. We don't address it by tearing down the leader. We address it by focusing the leader properly. That's an obligation in the following. So what is that saying? It's saying that the following must register the direction and focus and emphasis of the leader, and it must be reflected in the following. That is an obligation in the following. The character of the leadership is reflected in the following. The emphasis of the leadership is reflected in the following. The discipline of the leadership is reflected in the following. The commitment of the leadership is reflected in the following. That can't be expected unless the following is understanding what the leader is saying. You have to be a true and interested party in what the leader is saying. Imam W. Muhammad said that the majority of the leaders were not interested and not committed to what he was saying. That is a difficult reality that our people have yet to appreciate in terms of how it has influenced us and how it resonates with us presently. This community of Muslims, though it identifies with Imam W. Muhammad, is more under the leadership of these others than it is of him. And that explains their treatment of me. There's nothing else that explains it better than that. They're more the followers of Qasim Ahmed. They're more the followers of Yahya Abdullah. They're more the followers of the other imams. And you say, well, why are you mentioning their names? I'm mentioning their names because these are leading influences and they have a direction emphasis. They have their own language. They have their own reasoning. They have their own spirituality. What do you mean their own spirituality? The way that they teach the religion is different from the way Imam W. Mohammed taught. Another spirituality, another spiritual discipline. I saw one of them giving the address for Friday, and I guess the camera was moving, and his face moved like this with the camera. That's a different spirituality. You more interested in the camera than you interested in what you're talking about. You're more interested in demonstrating like an actor than the discipline of the message itself, the discipline and intent that's supposed to be behind the preparation of the message. It's not present. It's pretense. Showtime. Lights, camera, action. So this superficiality has had an impact on the character of our community. And, you know, we have to point it out. We have to excise it, remove it. And it can't happen. We are people that are concerned about, you know, in the history of Islam, Islamic scientific progress and thinking in the area of medicine. Anesthesiology is a discipline of Islamic conscience and thinking. So the measurement of pain thresholds was an interest of Muslim scientists. So we're not a people that want to see people have excessive pain. It's a sensitivity in us. It's of the mercy of God to mitigate that. So when we excise something, we have to be considerate of the impact that it has on the heart rate of the people. You know, some things we have to deal with, and the pain is sharp in an instant, and then it dissipates. But prolonged pain is not something that we want our people to endure. So the way that we handle this period is, you know, we handle it carefully. In some cases, we have to interject and deal with something abruptly, with a kind of sensitive precision that wants to mitigate pain, but is not afraid of the painful effects that it might have. And that's when I mention these names. That's painful to some people, but it's necessary. It's necessary. We have to point out where the problem is in some instances. You can't say that I'm a student of Imam Qasim Ahmed and a student of Imam W. Mohammed. You can't say that. You can say that Imam Qasim Ahmed helped me, but the direction and focus and teaching of the religion belongs to Imam W. Deen Mohammed. Now, if you're saying that somebody else is your teacher along with that, then you're saying that you belong to a confused discipline. So when I say, speak of myself in this role that I have, what do I say to you? I don't say Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed. I say Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed in continuation of, in succession of. So there's no confusion there. There is continuity. The language and emphasis and teaching that you hear from me is not in conflict on any point of reference. Say, well, you know, you have to evolve. You can't be really Imam. Let me explain to you. Imam W. Muhammad's teaching is the evolution. If you understand as a matter of Islamic principle, what is the role of guidance? And that guidance serves the life of the people in every degree of their development. And if you have correct guidance, you can find within that guidance or extract from it the necessary discipline. The reference is deep and profound. And whatever the need is can be addressed with that particular emphasis. So what then is the emphasis of Imam W.D. Muhammad's teaching? What is the baseline emphasis? What is it? It is 1, faith, and 2, respect for the creation of man. Faith in God and respect for what God created when he created a human. If you understand that guidance and nature, if you understand that that is the baseline, that everything comes through that filter, then you have the proper approach to Prophet Muhammad's leadership. And that is what the Muslim world is in need of. How is Islamic preaching, teaching, Muhammad the Prophet's teaching and conduct, how is it explained as a reference to the dignity of human life? Then you can understand the importance of prayers. Then you can understand the importance of charity. Then you can understand the importance of fasting and Hajj. You can recognize that to say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah is a recognition in the conscience of a human brain that God created. And then you can understand what is necessary as a foundation for the structure of the just society. If you don't have an appreciation for faith in God and the dignity of the creation of man, you cannot even approach the concept of justice. God is the author of justice in the context of human creation. Now, I'm not telling you anything that Imam W. Muhammad didn't say. I'm just saying it in 2024. And he's saying it in the life beyond his physical life through me. So what are you saying? You the reincarnation? You a fool. Incarnate means physical. But are we not the descendant of Adam? We have in our DNA that is both spiritual and physical connection to our first ancestor, Adam. So that which has influenced us spiritually for our direction as a people should also resonate in us in every age of need for our progress. And so we should expect that there will manifest from us representation of that. That should be a spiritual expectation, especially when we conclude that we have been weakened or troubled in some way. We should definitely expect it then. It becomes more pronounced as a need. So, yes, the following has to respect the focus and direction of the leadership and act upon it. It has to be aware, it has to inform itself, and it has to behave and act accordingly. So any member of the following can go into their own home environment and lead. In fact, during the time of the prophet would lead Jummah in Medina, and some small areas, area towns, he would designate other leaders to lead Jummah in those places, and then those persons would lead Jummah in those places and conclude, and then join the congregation in Medina and follow Prophet Muhammad in his leading of the Jummah. So here he's empowering leaders who are also followers.